Good evening, everybody, and welcome to HartmanBaldwin's Construction Showcase. I want to welcome you all this evening, and hopefully you've had a chance to grab a comfortable spot at home and maybe one of your favorite beverages to sit down and spend the next, half hour or so with us talking about this fun project. What we're going to talk about today is this remodel that we did on this really unique mid-century modern home with amazing views. You know, the clients came to us with this home and they wanted to bring it up to contemporary standards for the way that they lived, while still respecting the character defining features of the homes. And what do I mean by that? If you look at the picture here on the outside, you can see you hear people talk about the post and beam structure of a mid-century modern. So here we have these beams coming up and then all of these posts coming all the way down. Those are and then all this floor to ceiling glass. Those are the character defining features that I'm talking about. And then we're also going to be, they also wanted to maximize the views. I'll show you in a minute some of those views. So let's take a quick look inside and then we'll talk about what we're going to be talking about today. So here you can see the exterior, sort of this entry courtyard. And then as we walk into the new interior, this is the entry hall, and you can see this light, airy, contemporary space. You start to get an idea of the views, the floor to ceiling glass that we have in there. And if we continue on a little bit deeper into the house, some other areas that we worked on, the kitchen, which of course is a very important part of our homes nowadays. And we want to make sure that that's functioning in all of the ways that we want it to. Kind of fun to look at before photos too. We can take a look at that. Here's the kitchen before. You can see it's very dated, had a sort of a island there in the middle, really was kind of functioning. This island here was really kind of functioning more as just a bigger cooktop, and then it completely blocked off from the view. And then if you look at the ceiling too, it was, you know, remember where I talked about all of that post and beam structure? It was all hidden behind lighting and soffits and hood vents and all that kind of thing. So we really wanted to clean all of that up and bring it into a more contemporary state, as you see here. There you can see how much simpler and cleaner the ceiling could look. Nice open kitchen taking in that view. Really, really a successful project. So before I go too much longer, I just want to spend a couple minutes, not even probably a couple minutes, talking about myself and who's with us tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, back up a second. What I want to talk about are some other projects. On the left, you see on the Cordova residence, this was a kitchen, living room, dining room remodel. And here's a little before picture and an after, okay? Likewise, over on the right side, a project in Sierra Madre, more of a traditional style, where we had a craftsman home that had just this kind of poorly remodeled kitchen, and we transformed it into this great contemporary kitchen for a craftsman home. I'll note too that if you're interested in seeing more on these projects, we did do a showcase on both of those, and I invite you to go to our YouTube channel and see those if you'd like to hear a little bit more and see a little bit more about those projects. That is on our YouTube channel, as well as some other very informative videos on our Home Remodeler Survival Guide workshop. We also do ground up homes. Here you can see a couple of homes that we built from the ground up. On the left, more traditional style, sort of a Cape Cod Northeastern style home. And then on the right, a much more contemporary, sort of a California ranch home, I would almost call it, where had some real fun with natural materials. You know, you see stone and steel and stucco and wood, and this really maximizing the views and taking advantage of the modern materials that we have nowadays, but yet still giving a little bit of a wink towards some traditional ranch style. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we do. Before I go too much further, my name is Bill Judson. I'm an architect with HartmanBaldwin. I've been with the company for about 15 years now. I'll point out one thing, you know, I grew up at the Judson Studios, which is a stained glass studio in Highland Park. And the reason I bring it up is because when I think about where I've come from and where I am now, the idea of stained glass being this such a great, well, it's in actuality, it's not even a metaphor of bringing art and architecture together, because windows need to be a fabric of the building. But in the case of a stained glass window, they can be beautiful works of art. So that's a great metaphor, the combination of art and architecture, which is a long held value here at HartmanBaldwin, is that our homes should be artistic. They should be delightful to look at. We should take an artistic approach when we start to design homes and design remodels and bring all of that art and architecture together. I would also like to introduce to you some other people that are on the webinar tonight to help with the production and also answer questions you may have. I'd encourage you, if during the presentation you have a question, go ahead. There should be a little button. I'm on an iPad. It's up in the upper right. If you're on a PC or a Mac, it may be somewhere else. But you can click on that and enter in a question. And Jesse or Carla or Christina or Danielle will either answer that question for you, or if it's a good question we think everybody may be interested in, I'm going to hold some time at the end of our talk today for some questions and answers. So we're all here to do that. If you have anything, you could also put it in the chat if that's something you'd like to share with everybody. But we're here to support you and take care of all of that. I do want to mention a little bit about HartmanBaldwin. You know, we are a true design build firm, meaning we have 6 architects and we're also general contractors. So that idea of bringing design and build together was in our DNA right from the beginning, right from the inception when Bill Baldwin and Devin Hartman started this company, is let's bring the design and the construction together so that this could be a great experience for everybody, okay? All right, I want to dive into this project a little bit more. First, I want to talk a little bit of background, okay? These particular owners had done several remodels. They had moved a few times for their professions and had remodeled several homes. And now they had come and found this home and decided that this was going to be the one. You're going to settle down, finish raising their children, and make this the home that they wanted to stay in. And so they wanted professional help to do that. Along those lines, ironically, in some ways, I think one of the owners was an architect that worked for a major design firm that was getting ready for a big project opening. So they also were very busy raising their family, doing their jobs, getting ready for a major, major project. So they were really looking for someone that could take it from that initial meeting and take care of everything all the way through, which was exactly what we do. And they happened to pick up one of our mailers. So if you get some of those, they pay attention. They picked up one of our mailers, called in, and started talking and didn't want to waste anybody's time. And one of the things that they asked for right from the beginning was some referrals. Before we even came to the house, which was a little unique, but okay, we were able to put them in touch with some people that had done similar projects and actually worked in similar fields to them to I guess, prove to them, or maybe they asked those people, hey, are these people who they say they are? Are they worth talking to? And those conversations went very well. They invited us into their home to start talking about what it was that they wanted to do. So here you can see the plan of the home, the before plan. As I mentioned, this house had a lot of character. And you can see here, one of the very unique things about it is this home is sort of in a semicircular plan, right? So what you see here is it's sort of a quarter of a pie shape, you know? And one of the biggest attributes of this house was all along here were just these amazing views out over the city, down into the valley, okay? And so they wanted to maximize that. But you'll notice that, and it's pretty typical for mid-century homes, we have a series of these blocked off spaces, right? All of these walled in spaces. And that really doesn't suit the way that we live nowadays, does it? Okay. Not only that, but you weren't able to see the whole view from anywhere in this house, you know, especially not the kitchen. If you look down here in the kitchen was all blocked off. Okay. And it was fun. The homeowner said to me, you know, she liked to have her friends over and sit in the living room and drink some wine. But as soon as they needed to go get another bottle of wine, someone went in back into the kitchen to grab that bottle of wine. And before you knew it, they were all trying to continue socializing in the kitchen and not taking advantage of all of that. Not to mention, when you're cooking in the kitchen in here, you have no view. You had a view out to the pool, but you really felt blocked off. And so what we wanted to do was look at, hey, can we really open up these spaces, open up the kitchen and get that set up, and then go through and just give the whole house a nice refresh so that it all was cohesive in design, cohesive in finishes, and suited the way that they wanted to live in the house for the rest of the time that they're there. So what do we do? And so if you look at a couple of things, in this case, you can see this blue arrow down here, okay, indicating kind of where we are on the plan. So here we're in the before picture of the entry, and you could see it was very dated. You know, this metal railing that had been painted several times was kind of gooped with paint. Everything felt a little dingy and dated and just needed to be freshened up. And so I'll show you the after and just give you a sense of what a change that could make. You can see now we changed a lot of those materials, some you know, beautiful glass railing, some wood stair treads, cleaned up the whole interior, accented that post and beam ceiling, okay? In the next slide, you'll see another area that had a big impact, the kitchen. We were talking about this. And here you can see the kitchen looking up towards the entry, just dated. And I'll note too, you know, we all get excited about this idea of getting an island, but it has to work right. Here you see this island right here, okay? But really, because of the way it's designed, it's just a big cooktop. You have the cooktop in there, but if someone is standing here, right, trying to talk to someone that's over here cooking, and someone else tries to walk through the door, it just doesn't work, okay? We need to pay attention. Islands can be a good idea, but they need to be designed in the proper way. So again, let's take a quick look at the after kitchen. Here we've got an island, right? Someone can be over here cooking, prepping, cooking, and cleaning, while someone else could be over here sitting and being with someone, but yet not in the way of our kitchen triangle, right? So that's where we need to have an island. Islands really serve more as buffers between our working space of the kitchen and what I call the socializing part of the kitchen. We need to make those separate, and the island serves as a nice buffer between those two spaces. Another shot of the kitchen. This wall that you're looking at right here, this is where the view is, right? And here we were looking at these horribly dated cabinets. But if you look at the after, you'll see what a difference it makes. And just really freshened it up, brightened it up. This is interesting. So here we are in the living room, looking at this wall where they had this fireplace. Interesting thing, right? The fireplace was sort of dwarfed in that wall, that big wall of lava rock is what it was. And it was interesting when we were walking through the house one time, one of the owners turned to me and said, you know, that lava rock, it's such a character defining feature of this home, and I just really love it. So keep that in mind. A few moments later, the other owner pulled me aside and said, you know that lava rock? I hate it. It's all gotta go. You know, and what went through my mind at the time was I had an architecture professor that told me, you know, if you ever go into residential architecture, you're going to have to go and get another degree in marriage and family counseling, kind of half jokingly. but kind of not. And I never went and got my marriage and family counseling, but I always know there's a way to work these things out. We just need to explore the options, communicate, share with each other what the goals are, and we'll find some commonality. And I think in this case, we'll see in a minute when you click to the next slide, the result. And what the result was is, hey, maybe we don't need to take it all down, but is there a way to actually make it better, to make your fireplace have a better presence there and not be overwhelmed by this wall of stone? And I love hearing things like this. At the end of the project, the owner that didn't like the lava stone came up to me and said, you know what? You did such a good job. I love that stone now. It looks so nice in my house. I'm glad we didn't get rid of all of it. So let's back up a little bit and talk about how we got to this. All right. So I'm going to take a few minutes and just talk about our design build process. This is a process we use on every project. You know, you saw some smaller projects all the way up to a new home. And we break it down really into 4 phases. The pre-design phase, where we need to spend a little time together and see if we're a good fit for each other. The conceptual design phase, where we want to figure out the big picture. What is the project and about how much is this going to cost? And then we need to enter into design development, where we'll figure out all of the details. So when we get into that final phase of construction, we've got everything figured out and we're ready to go. So I'm going to drill down deeper in each one of these phases. In the pre-design phase, I like to mention to people, we need to spend a little, we need to have some time to figure out if we're a good fit for you and if, frankly, you're a good fit for us. So we'll start with an initial consultation. And this will usually be, you know, nowadays either we'll come to your home with masks and social distancing and everything and walk around your home and see what you have in mind, talk to you about who we are, answer any questions you may have, make sure we're understanding what it is you want us to do. And then even nowadays, we're doing these via Zoom or FaceTime too, if we need to stay apart from each other. And I find even at that meeting, we're still, you know, we may spend an hour or 2 together talking about the big picture. What is it that we want to do? What are some of our concerns? And that may be enough for our first conversation, but we're certainly going to come back and talk more and dive a little bit deeper. That's what architects call programming, where if we're working at your kitchen, we want to talk about, okay, how do you cook here? What appliances do we need to have in here? Have you ever seen appliances that you've always wanted but never had? When we're in your bathroom, do you want to have a separate tub and shower? Do we just need a nice big shower? Do we need 2 sinks, 1 sink? All of that kind of thing, okay? Because then what that allows me to do is think about what we need to do to get through these initial conceptual design with you, okay? And allows me to develop a design proposal for you that it doesn't, even though it's that we won't come with designs, but come with a list of here's the steps we need to take to get some design ideas for you, and here's how much it costs. So before you enter in the conceptual design phase, before you incur any costs, you're going to know exactly what you get and how much it's going to cost. That's all looking good. Then we'll enter into the conceptual design phase. And in a lot of ways, this is not only the most important phase of this whole process, but it can be the most difficult. I'll tell you why in a second. What are we going to do in this phase? Okay, we're ready to get started. So we need to come out and we need to measure the house or the lot, whatever physical parameters are there on the site that we need to understand to start developing some designs. We also need to go to talk to your jurisdiction, whether that's the city or the county, and do a little research, right? Make sure we understand what all of their requirements are, what their requirements are, not just in their code, but specific to your property. So that once we come and start doing some designs, that's that next piece. Once we start doing some design, now we know what we've got to work with. We understand what we've got physically to work with. We understand what your needs are, and we understand what the requirements of the jurisdiction are going to be. So we can start to do some designing. We'll also write a scope of work. And so what the scope of work is meant to capture is there's some things that we can show on a plan. You know, here's your new kitchen, here's the countertop, the stove, And then there are other things like in the home that we're talking about today where, hey, we really want this flooring to kind of continue on through. By the way, we want to replace all of the windows. We want to go ahead and paint the whole interior. So these are things that are hard to show on a drawing, but we want to make sure we're trapping those off and have everything included in the project that you want to have included. And then probably most importantly, and this is where the hard part begins, both for you and us, is we'll start to develop some estimates based on those plans. Because I've found, and one reason why we spent the time to figure out how to give you these estimates early on is that what people want to do and what they want to spend are always two different things. Okay. And when do we want to figure that out? Do we want to figure that out when we're in construction and we fall prey to that saying that I hear all the time of however much they say it's going to be, double it? No, we want to figure that out early on, right? So what we're able to do is just do some quick schematic designs and then very quickly put some cost to it. The idea being that we want to give you all the information you need to decide what you want to move forward on and how much you want to spend, okay? And once we've got those two in balance, now we're ready to jump into the design development, the next phase of the process. So what do we do in the design development? Really what we're doing here is figuring out all of the details, okay? Sorry, I got ahead of myself. I want to back up a little bit, go back to this project and talk about the conceptual design, because one of the things that is true in all cases is there's more than one way to do these projects. And not only is there more than one way to do them, those different options will have different costs. So in the case of this project, very early, right at the beginning of the schematic design process, we had a few options for them. But let me tell you, just to remind you, what they were looking at, they had this beautiful view all along here. We wanted to get that view from the kitchen, okay? We also wanted to open up all of this space. They had this great, we'll show you in a minute, patio that came off of here. They wanted to get access from that patio and then freshen up all of the finishes and maybe use some of the finishes that even weren't available at the time that the house was built. So in the next slide, we'll see our one option, okay? And here in this option, you can see we had a take on the kitchen. One of the things some of you may have noticed is on this curved house with these beams coming radially out from that is we had these curved beams. So we had to really take into account how we were going to do all of that structurally. If we start taking out some walls, how are we going to support all of that that's coming down? In fact, this was a 2-story house. So in this case, you could see what we did. We opened up the kitchen, right? So we could get that view through the family room. We kept the wall up, dividing the dining room and the family room to give them a nice dining space, nice private office off of that. And then the living room, we were going to replace all of these windows. And then probably some of you have seen these cool accordion doors. So we were going to take out the windows that were here and then give them a nice big opening all the way out into the patio here. So that was option one. Let's look at option two. Slight difference here, in this case, the kitchen was kind of the same. We took out a little bit, more wall so that you could take in the view from the entry right in through here, okay? And a different take on the office where we didn't want to close the office up completely because we still wanted that to capture some of the view out from there. So while they're in the office, they don't feel like they're blocked off from everything else. And then oddly enough, or maybe not oddly enough, when you see it, when you look at option three, this is really the one that started to take shape. Because what we started to see here is, if we look at the kitchen, we really opened up this whole kitchen wall, right? And you can see we got that nice big island, okay? Where someone can be back here cooking, and then people can be out here hanging out or helping, and they're not in conflict with each other, okay? we can see that now from the kitchen, you can really take in this beautiful view, and all of this space started to really open up and still kept that nice big door to get out into their patio. This is the one that they saw that, oh, okay, now we've got something. Now we're heading in the direction that we like. So then we're able to move on. One of the tools that we use quite a bit is, I'm sure you've probably all seen these 3D renderings. And so we can get in a place where even if we're doing kind of just rough renderings, where we're saying, hey, what is this gonna feel like? What's it gonna look like if I use that tile on the backsplash? And if I change the island, and if we have this curved cabinet on the left? And then in a second, when you click over to the new slide, you'll see what it actually was. So the rendering was helpful in making a decision for the client to go, okay, this is what we like. And we also did another rendering of that fireplace wall, because remember how I talked about we had some kind of unspoken conflict, unless it seemed to be unspoken with each other. And we said, okay, here's an idea if we just completely took off all of that stone and come up with maybe some other kind of material, some panel material, a marble or a stone slab. And in the next one we said, or we could have some punctuation there, some recesses and some protruding out. And then the third rendering shows the one again that we're like, oh, okay, now we start to see it. Now we can see the fireplace on that wall before it was hidden within that stone. We get this nice contrast of that vertical calmness with all the activity of the stone, and then the way that it starts to draw the eye up into the ceiling. And then we'll show you the after here to show you the net result. Really, really good. And just as a side note here, you can see there's that accordion door that goes out into that patio. So now we're done with the conceptual design. What do you have, right? I always like to point that out. So we're done with the designs, the conceptual design. We have a schematic plan, so we know what we're doing and what's going to be taken out, what's going to come back. We've got a scope of work that we're making sure that has everything that you want included in that project. And we're also looking at cost estimates for all of that, not only to help you make your decision, but to also kind of mark this point in time as here's the project that we have, here's the cost estimate. And in fact, we even guarantee these cost estimates to be within 15% of your final cost. So you know it's real. We can enter into the design development knowing that we've got a project and this thing is not going to double on us. That's very, very exciting, very liberating. So now we get into the design development. What are we going to do in here? Well, we're going to develop the design, kind of like the title, right? We're going to start figuring out all of the details. We're going to start picking out all of our materials so that at the end of this, we've got a nice set of working drawings, a nice set of blueprints that we can use for a variety of purposes. So just to give you an example, on the next slide, you'll see here is a sheet of our design development package of our working drawings. This shows the existing plan, and we start to show everything on here that's going to be demolished, okay? And then on the right side, you can see a list of all of the scope of work that's describing those things that we can't show on the plan that need to be demolished or retained. And the next slide, you'll see, okay, now the floor plan is starting to develop more. Not only are we showing the walls and cabinetry and doors and windows, but we're also looking at electrical. Where are the lights? Which switch controls those lights? Where are the plugs? All of that detail really starts to come out. And again, on the right side, that scope of work describing all of those other things that aren't shown on the plan. We also start to develop even more detail. We'll start to draw all of the interior elevations. So every wall, okay, and in this case of the drawing that's up here is of the island, where we'll take a look at, okay, what does the island look like in plan? What does it look like from the top? And then what does it look like from every single angle? So we can see how many doors, how many drawers, where's the fridge, you know? Where's the microwave in this case? How many, you know, how big are the drawers? All of those details get worked out in an incredible amount of detail. And then, like I said, we'll draw all the walls. There you see the fireplace wall. that cool accordion door. That's what you see in the upper left there. We'll start to see typical elevations of how we're going to lay out the windows and have little operable pieces down here. All of that detail is what we want to figure out in the design development. As we're doing that, we'll also start to look at materials, okay? So I get asked that question a lot, how we do that, especially for people that maybe haven't done it before, like we've done it over and over again. And we find one method that works pretty well is we may come to you with just, hey, let's just look at some palettes, you know? Maybe here's a warm palette and a cool palette, and maybe here's a palette that has a lot of punchy colors. And then maybe you say, hey, I like these nice kind of cool gray palettes. I find them very calming. So we may move to something like on the right. Okay, now that we're kind of focusing on that, here's an example of a whole bunch of tile and wood and paint colors that fit into that palette. And we'll start down this decision tree of helping you narrow down the decisions and bringing that all together. So at the end of that, at the end of the design development, what do we end up? We end up with this great set of working drawings that, you know, is meant to convey to you so you understand everything that's coming out and what's coming back in its place. Excuse me, that we can go and get permitted, that we can use to build to, right? Now we've got everything figured out. And even more importantly, we can get that final cost. So once we've got those good working drawings, we can then get ready for construction and we enter our pre-construction phase. This is when, now that we have the drawings, we're ready to go get our permits. We'll have a job walk where we'll have all of the subcontractors, all the trades come together, review the plans, walk around the house, look for all of those things. You know, I love it when I see that the plumber and the electrician and the framer are all together, because we may start to look at, hey, we're going to have a new range put in here. So how are we going to get the gas through your framing? How are you going to get the electrical over here? Where does it need to be? And all of that teamwork just pays off so well in the end. We'll have a pre-construction meeting where we'll go through with you, okay, how are we going to do this together? When can we start? When can we end? How do we get into the house? You know, how are we going to protect your things? Whole agenda that we'll go over. And that will also, once we've done all that, work on our final estimate. And the great thing about this is this final estimate, we will guarantee to be what I call within a 0% error factor. You will know exactly what your project costs before we start construction. It's a simple idea, right? We want to plan the work and then work the plan. No one else does that. No one guarantees their cost. And I think a lot of it is just because they haven't taken the time to figure all of this out. In our case, we've designed it, we've drawn it, we've taken the time to figure out all the details. We should be able to guarantee our cost, and that's what we do. Now we're ready to start construction. And in a lot of ways, the hard work is done, right? We've figured out what we're gonna do, how much it's gonna cost. We've figured out all the details. Now we can just come and execute, you know? Here you can see on the left, the entry, right? Where all the stairs are gone, all of the railing is gone. We've taken all of that out, okay? You can see the patio up here, just a fun little note. Right up in here, we started to look at paint colors and a few different options. We ended up with even more than this, and we did drawdowns on 5 or 6 parts of the house so we could see, hey, is this a little too dark, a little too bright? Figure out all of those things before we start painting. While we're in construction too, we'll have some key meetings, right? When we're in this phase, communication just becomes vitally important. So we'll have a weekly meeting with you, our architect, our project manager. We'll have an agenda for that. We'll be looking, hey, what happened last week? What's coming up this week? Do we have any decisions we need from you? We'll have a couple of very key meetings, electrical, where we'll walk through around and before we've installed it, hey, are you sure these lights are placed the way that you want? If you come walking in this room, is it more natural for you to have the light switch on the left side or on the right side? We can still, same thing with the plumbing. We'll stand in your shower. Where do we want this shower head? How high up? Where do we want the valve? Cabinets, that's another big one. We'll spend time designing all of your cabinets, but we want to get the cabinet maker out and get their input, make sure we have a good understanding of how big these drawers are, where they are, making sure they're not conflicting with each other. And then as this all starts to come together, you'll get excited. You'll be like, oh, can we start to, it looks like we could start to use our kitchen. Everything's here. Can we start to use our master bath? And what we'll do is, that's what we call substantially complete. We'll go through and make sure we're making a list of all of the things that we have left to do, punch list items. You know, the door on the cabinet isn't quite square. We have a little touch-up paint that we need to have happen. The doorknob's jiggly. We'll make sure we make a list of all of those and get them all knocked out, so then we can close out the project. And I say the word close out because the next step is the celebration, right? Now that we've got all of those things off the list, we can get together and celebrate what a change in your lifestyle, what a beautiful enhancement this project was to your home and the way that you live in it. And, you know, I'm here to say that our clients at the end of this are so happy across the board. We make sure of that. And in fact, once or twice a year, we'll have a party when it's non-COVID. And, you know, dozens of our past clients come back because they want to see us and reminisce about their project and talk more. And that's really one of the great things about what we do. So what I'd like to do now is just take a little bit more time and go through the project in a little bit more detail. Spend a little time kind of looking at some before and afters. So here you can see a before in the family room where they had their TV. Obviously, you know, that entertainment or that shelving unit wasn't built in a time when we have the TVs that we do now. You can also kind of see just the dinginess kind of up in the ceiling, just really needed some love and attention. And if we turn to the after photo, you'll see what a difference it makes. Just to, you know, keeping the character of the home, in fact, playing it up, you could see with the contrasting painting in the ceiling there, between the beams and the ceiling, we really played up the post and beam. And then a nice contemporary shelving unit that ties in with the kitchen there to the right. Another before and after, here we are in the kitchen. You know, I always have to kind of chuckle at myself because I have been through so many projects where we want to open up the kitchen. I love the open floor plan, but you have to remember, if we take out all of your walls, where's all the cabinetry going? You know? So in this case, we were taking out a whole wall of cabinetry. How do we make that up? And you can see the wall there in the nook. In the next slide, we took that whole wall, which was virtually blank, and got it a whole wall of storage that right off the kitchen and in the same type of the kitchen cabinetry, so they can store plates, dishes. They could suppose do pantry items. And then we also left, you know, a couple of spaces for display, so we could show art, those personal things that we all like to show. On the exterior, we just needed a facelift. Remember, I talked about that simple post and beam structure. Hopefully you can see here too. So they really wanted to make this feel a little bit more welcoming. You could see we just had this big solid door. We're not very welcoming, right? They also, I don't know if you can see it, the electrical panel was on the front wall of the house. So as you walked up, you saw the electrical panel and this big slab door, and it just looked sort of tired and not cohesive. So if we look at the after photo, wow, what a difference, right? We took the electrical panel out, added a simple light fixture, a beautiful door here. The thing I love about this door, in some ways, this glazing that we have in it reflects the glazing that we see in the house, right? So we're always looking for little ways to kind of tie things together, okay? And then you can also see this beautiful patio door coming out into there. Let's kind of just dive in a little bit deeper, show you some more pictures. It's kind of cool. Here it is from the outside, lots of that lava rock on the outside. This also gives you a sense of the view that they had, and that revealing of the post and beam structure through that cantilever deck. We go walk around to the entry courtyard where the pool is. we'll see the front entry again and the patio. Stepping through the front door, we'll come into the front entry. So much brighter, more contemporary, better feeling. Step in a little bit deeper, we'll start to see the office and dining room space. So here we repeated that motif of the front door for a big sliding barn door that we could use to get us some privacy of the office. You also see the beautiful view. There it is, looking, you can see the entrance to the office to the right. So we accomplished that where they could be in the office and still see out through the view, but if they needed privacy, that beautiful door just glides across, completely closing off that. Step into the living room, which we've looked at a couple of times. There's where the view really came into play. Those beautiful floor to ceiling glass windows. And what we did here was we took out all of that single glazed plate glass and replaced all of these floor to ceiling windows with dual glazed insulating glass. So now that they have a lot less heat gain in the summer and lose a lot less heat during the winter. If we turn around and go into the main space, now you can see all of that openness. On the right, we have the entry and how that opens right out into the dining room. The dining room then kind of bleeds right into the family room where we had that TV, and then the nice connection to the kitchen tucked back into the right. So here you can see, can't you just picture, you know, I mean, I love this house, so I can picture myself and my family here, where maybe the kids could be, you know, maybe they're sitting watching some TV or playing video games, and we're in the kitchen spending some time making dinner, having a glass of wine, hanging out, or maybe it should be the other way. The kids are making dinner and I get to be watching TV. And if any of you know how to make that happen, let me know. I'd appreciate it. Let's go in the kitchen again, taking in that beautiful view, much more updated look. I hope you get a sense of how this house is looking. And if we turn around once again, we can see the rest of the kitchen and the outside. And we'll go in a little bit closer now to the patio. So here you can see that patio, this right next to the pool deck, and this nice big accordion door open right here, so we can get in and out. And those, you know, like tonight, it's going to be a beautiful night. We could open up that door, sit outside and eat. We could be sitting right here, looking all the way through out into this beautiful view. Just a really, really fabulous space. Turned out beautifully. But let's talk about, you know, I want to talk about the challenges that you may face, or the challenges that this particular owners faced. And that was finding the right people that would listen to them to understand their unique needs and desires and their unique home, okay? And have the ability to execute that, right? So that was their challenge. And then I put here at the end, what is success to us? Success in this case was exceeding the unique needs of every home and homeowner, because the home was unique, the homeowner was unique, everybody has unique. There's no, you know, there's no one way to do any of this. And we don't take someone's kitchen and put it into the next house. Everything is unique, okay? So we wanna exceed those unique needs and desires. And then I always love all of the pictures that you're looking at now. Those are, remember I mentioned we have parties and past clients. So these are all past clients that come back to visit us, share stories, tell us how they're living in the home. And these continued relationships are just such a rewarding part of what we do. Really makes it all worthwhile. Tried to get through it as quickly as I could. I ran over a little bit. I want to just, after this, leave a little room for questions and answers. I also want to make you aware that if you enjoyed this webinar tonight, like to learn more, on July 9th, we're going to be having another webinar, one in our series of Home Remodelers Survival Guide. So if you could join us that evening, we'll be diving into a little bit more on how to make sure that we get success. And then towards the end of the month, we'll be also looking at guest houses and accessory structures. And we'll also be talking about how the recent change in the law may open up opportunity for some of you to really maximize the use of your property. And then I also like to mention, if this is interested you enough to request a consultation, just give us a call, or you can schedule online, and Jesse or myself or Carlo will come out and talk to you and spend some time about talking about what you want to do, and answer any questions you may have about us. And certainly, as I mentioned, we could do those virtually if you're more comfortable with doing it on a FaceTime or a Zoom or something like that. Hey, we're easy to get in touch with, right? We love to stay connected to you. So you can find us on Facebook, Instagram. I mentioned our YouTube channel, House, Twitter, whatever your favorite, we're going to be there. I want to just thank you all for spending this time with us tonight. I hope it was helpful and fun. I did mention that I want to save a little time here at the end for question and answers. So I'm going to just ask Christina if we had any questions come up during the presentation.
Hi, Bill. Yeah. Well, I have to say, it's always really wonderful to kind of just walk through these projects and kind of reminisce and really understand the process that these transformations kind of undertake. So really thank you for that information and that great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it looks like we did get a few questions in. The first being, how can we get a project started?
Okay, yeah, that's it's interesting, especially now, you know, with the quarantine and everything. But as I mentioned, certainly give us a call. The first step would be to just talk to us on the phone and let us know what you have in mind. And if that's feeling good, then we'll come out, and either whether that's virtually or in person, and talk to you about what it is you want to do, and see you in your space, and answer any questions you may have about us. We're ready and available to work with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of picking back off of that, is there a project that's too small for HartmanBaldwin to take on?
That's a good question, because I get it a lot. So I think you're not the only one wondering about this. And, you know, the easy answer is we're really suited, our business is really suited for like kind of a major kitchen remodel and up. And what I tell people is it really has to do with complexity. You know, even if your project is relatively small, if it's complex, if you need an architect, if you're going to have multiple subs that need coordination, then that's when it makes sense to work with us. So if you just need to paint your house and replace your flooring or something like that, you may not need us for that. But if you want to kind of rethink your master suite, or consider an addition to your home, or consider building a new home, that's really, those kind of projects are what we built our business around.
Yeah, that was a great question. And then it looks like the final question we have here is, how are cities' planning departments handling COVID?
Yeah, I have to hand it to a lot of the cities. They must have either seen it coming, or they were very quickly able to start working virtually. So they converted pretty quickly to accepting plans virtually and reviewing them and everything. You know, we've been at this long enough now to know that it is taking a little bit longer to get through the city. You know, cities that we used to see take 4 to 6 weeks, may be more likely taking 8 to 10 weeks. But they are moving things through, and things are getting done. So it's possible.
That's great to hear. Yeah. And I think that was all of the questions we had.
Okay. Well, very good. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. Hope it was helpful, and I hope that we'll see you all again soon. All right. Have a good evening. Bye.